All right, this is email marketing metrics and how to use them. This will be a tutorial for direct-to-consumer e-commerce brands by myself, Zach Schieffer. Let's dive in. So what we're going to talk about is overall revenue from email marketing, specifically percentage of revenue from campaigns versus flows. We'll talk about open rates, click rates, and CTRs, conversion metrics, negative engagement metrics, sign-up form metrics, and overall e-commerce metrics like AOV, CAC, LTV, return customer rate, things like that. Why listen to me? I've been helping handfuls of D2C clients at a time for over 3 years now, and our average client adds 50 to 200K to their monthly revenue. So check out our website here for all the full case studies. And if you want to do the same, make sure to check that out. Overall revenue from email marketing, we're going to get into it. Email marketing or Klaviyo attributed revenue, if you're using that ESP, very important stat here. This is what percentage of overall revenue is coming from your email and SMS efforts. We want to look at this number, and generally we want to shoot for about 33%. That's our personal standard. Some e-com brands, they can do more than that. Some can do less, but on average, that means if you're hitting 33%, that's very healthy. And anything above that is, icing on the cake. And anything below that means that you can either improve your efforts, or if you're really tapping out on email marketing, some brands, they might be tapped out at 18%, but it means that you need to continue doing what you're doing. So you want to look at this number and especially compare it to where you've been to see how much revenue is coming from email and SMS. What we like to do within our audits is look at where's the brand at now. So in this case, this brand is at 12.23%. And what happens if we get them to, if we add an extra 5, 10, 15, 20%. So in this case, if we get them from 12 to 30%, that adds an extra $740,000 per month to their bottom line, which is a great goal. And that's why it's such an important lever. If you can move this number in particular, everything else follows, your revenue goes up, and that's what we're here to do. So looking at the revenue split between campaigns and flows, this tells us where there's opportunity to add revenue. So here we have 66.51% of revenue coming from campaigns and about 33.5% of revenue coming from flows. So if either flows or campaigns are below 20%, that means there's potentially room for improvement. It also does depend on exactly how much effort you're dedicating towards campaigns versus flows. We'll get to an example in a second of what I mean there, but I wouldn't say that there's an ideal ratio like 50-50 or 80-20. I've seen both, and I've seen great email marketing, have a 50-50 split, and also an 80-20 split is, perfectly normal when you have great emails. It just really depends on the specific brand. I wouldn't say there's an ideal ratio. Impulse purchases, those types of brands, that means that campaign revenue is likely going to be higher versus brands that have a higher AOV, longer sales cycle. That means flow revenue is likely to be higher just from what we've seen. And talking about this, depending on, it depends on how much effort you're dedicating towards campaigns versus flows. I'll give you an example to share what I mean about this. So if you're only sending one campaign per week, but campaigns are 60% of your overall revenue, that means you absolutely need to send more emails. However, if you're dedicating a ton of effort towards campaigns, you're sending 4 or 5 per week, really going in on all the segmentation, you just know that people are resonating with the emails and they like them, but they're still only accounting for 10% of your overall email revenue. That happens sometimes. And that just means continue what you're doing on the campaigns, focus on the flows more, and focus on growing the list more, since it's just going to be an uphill battle with the email campaigns. There's just some brands, for whatever reason, people just don't buy off of the newsletters. All right, open rates. So overall, open rates are becoming more of a vanity metric nowadays in 2024. We don't want to just look at the percentage in a vacuum. You want to look at them alongside other metrics. So if open rates start dipping, so if you're comparing them to themselves, that's not good. Click rate is going to be different. That means that people are actually engaging. But open rates, you don't want to just look at, your open rates versus your neighbor Johnny's e-com brand down the street, his open rates, because it's just a tough metric. We'll talk about why in a second. but we need to understand how do ESPs actually track opens. Very simply, there's a pixel, which is an invisible piece of code added to the email, usually at the bottom. And when that pixel loads, that's an open. So Apple privacy, now with Apple being Apple, they preload every email, which means they're checking for spam and things like that. It means that every email is automatically opened. So anybody who has that on, they're going to automatically open the email. And that means that open rates can be way higher than they actually are. And you can exclude, and to kind of mitigate this, you can exclude Apple privacy opens within Klaviyo or your other ESP. Our benchmarks are going to be 50% open rates for flows. Naturally, flows are just going to have better open rates because it's things like the welcome series that they specifically signed up for to get the coupon or whatever, or abandonment flows. They just have a lot of interest and is based off a certain trigger versus campaigns. A lot of people are not going to open every single one. So that's why open rates are at 30 to 40%. That's the sweet spot. And I'll share with you exactly how to essentially dial in and always get 30 to 40% open rates no matter what. So what you can do with open rates to get them in this Goldilocks zone is by sending to more or less engaged segments. That's the dial that you can turn up and down to get your open rates within this range. So that way you're sending to the most amount of recipients, but you're still keeping open rates high. So you want to have a balance of those two. So what you do is you take a look at this flowchart and you look, okay, 30% open rates. If it's less than 30%, say if you're 20, 25%, you want to bump that up. So how do you do that? And why is that an issue? It's an issue because there's not enough engagement. That means worse deliverability, too many unsubscribes, more spam complaints potentially, and higher ESP costs because you're just sending to more people. So you want to send to less people instead and send to more engaged audiences. So for example, if you're sending to the 120-day engaged crowd, send to the 90-day engaged and see what open rates are there. 30 to 40%, you're doing great. You're hitting the sweet spot. 40%, if you're above 40%, you're not sending to enough people. So that means there's revenue left on the table, and there's people that are kind of medium engagers, not your VIPs, of course, but your people that are kind of interested, kind of not. They're not necessarily getting emails. So what you can do is send to more people. You can send to broader audiences. So for example, if you're getting 50% open rates, but you're only sending to 30-day engaged, move that out. So send to the 90-day engaged and see what open rates are like there. All right, click rates and click-through rates, or CTRs. So CTRs are always going to be greater or equal to click rates. I'll get to why. You'll see because of the definition, it's always going to be that. So click rates are going to be the percentage of people who clicked a link in your email out of the people who received it. And CTRs are going to be the percentage of people who clicked out of the people who opened. So in this case, the denominators are going to be different. And general guidelines for click rates, for flows, we want generally more than 4%. And then for campaigns, you generally want greater than 1%. And in order to move click rates, generally, it's a tougher metric to drastically improve. You can't just flip a knob necessarily like you're doing with open rates and engagement segments. It's not as easy to change. But essentially, you want to send more engaging content. You want to send content that resonates, that's more segmented, especially if you have a larger list. And overall, you want to do more split tests and find what really is resonating and what yields the best click rates. Also, sending to just more engaged segments is generally going to drive that up, but again, not as much as open rates. So again, CTR and click rate is all about what's in the content and how is that resonating with the audience? And do you have CTA buttons at the top of your email? Do you have an optimal structure? Is there a way that you can make it more mobile optimized? Things like that are absolutely going to drive more clicks just because it's more interesting of a subject line, preview text, which entices the open, and the copy on the page and the design on the page is really the biggest driver there. Conversion metrics. So conversion rate and revenue per recipient are the main two ones here. Conversion rate is going to be the number of orders that you get per number of people who received the email. And then revenue per recipient is going to be the total revenue versus total number of recipients. And when you're looking at RPR for campaigns, the number of recipients is just very easy. It's the total number of recipients of that single email campaign. For flows, the number of recipients refers to the total recipients of each individual email within the flow. So this is also known as RPR. Got to keep in mind that these metrics are important, but they're not absolutely the end all be all. For sales focused emails, they're going to be a great metric. It's important to compare sales focused emails versus other sales focused emails. But non-sales focused emails, these metrics are just less revenue or less relevant because it's not as focused on revenue. So conversion rates and RPR, you want to compare apples to apples. If you're trying to compare value-based emails versus more promo-heavy emails, you're essentially comparing apples to oranges. So it's very important to understand the context behind these conversion metrics. And you got to think, is your email actually trying to only convert, or is it more of a long-term play where you're trying to provide value and get them to convert later? You don't want to look at, I don't like to look at RPR and conversion rates over long spans of time. I like to look at them over a certain email sales campaign, but not over like the entire month or the entire quarter necessarily. It's not as great of a metric to look at, just because it's tough to when you have those value-based emails in there as well. Negative engagement metrics. So these are metrics that you want to essentially reduce as much as possible. And a lot of them have to do with deliverability. So bounce rate, this just means that if someone either got a soft bounce or a hard bounce, they got one of these two. Temporary issues is more of a soft bounce. So if their email inbox is full or something like that, a hard bounce is like they gave you the wrong email address, and you absolutely want to avoid these as much as possible. There's a couple ways that you can do it. Most people, you want to make sure they're giving you an actual legit email address. So that's why we don't like to have discount codes on the site or pop-ups on the site. We want to make them give you a legitimate email address. You also want to think about lead quality here and steer clear of giveaways and other promotions that attract low quality subscribers. Definitely don't buy lists or trade lists with other brands or things like that. It's really going to hurt your bounce rate there. You can also add a CAPTCHA, those annoying little things that you have to, select the motorcycle or whatever. So add those kind of CAPTCHAs on sign up forms and footer forms. And then also if you need to auto verify email addresses, this is what we've done for a few clients, but using Zapier and Million Verifier is a great way to do so. Essentially, there are services that will verify these emails and make sure you're getting, almost, less than 1% bounce rate, and that they verify that these emails are in fact legitimate before you start sending emails to that person. So they have to get verified before they get added to your Klaviyo list. So you can go ahead and do that. It's more of a technical setup, but we've done it for a couple clients. And then the last resort is putting the double opt in there. That's another way to add a little bit more friction and make sure that people really are your highest quality subscribers. Issue is it's going to leave a lot of people won't check it. People won't click the button, things like that. It's an extra step. So it's more friction, which means less people on your list. All right. Unsubscribe rate. This one's, again, a bit tough. People are just naturally going to unsubscribe every now and then. You just don't want it to be super high, but people are like, even if people do unsubscribe, you're sending regular campaigns. It happens. It's fine. So how to improve this? A couple things that we've implemented with clients: letting people snooze emails for a couple weeks, or have them opt in to only the major promotions. A couple ways that you can look at the managed preferences screen and let people not opt out completely, but just take a break until the biggest promotions or for a couple weeks. Also, definitely don't send to people who haven't explicitly opted in. This is really going to hurt all of these metrics really, and reducing the send frequency and or sending less emails to less engaged segments. So looking at engagement tiers where if you do want to send quite a lot of emails, that's going to drive up the revenue as much as possible, but you don't want to send all of your emails, especially if you're doing like 4 or 5 per week. You don't want to send all of those to really unengaged people. Instead, you want to send, maybe 5 per week to your highest engaged segments. You could send 2 per week to your medium engaged segments, and then only send big promos and your absolute biggest blasts, biggest events of the year. Send those to almost your entire list. Maybe not everyone, but you want to send that to the broadest, swath of people for those biggest promos that happen very rarely. That way, those unengaged people, at least whenever something does show up, it's a massive deal. All right, spam complaint rate. This is just the percentage of people who mark your emails as spam. Basically, to improve this, you don't want to send to people who haven't explicitly opted in. Again, you can see same theme here, and send frequency. You want to look at that and go with those engagement tiers if it makes sense. All right, benchmarks here. You can take a pause here, take a screenshot, but this is what Klaviyo recommends in terms of bounce rate, unsub rate, and spam complaint rate. All right, sign up form metrics. Very important to understand as you're growing your list. So you want to look at a couple different metrics. It's going to be these metrics. The names are going to be different based on if you're using Klaviyo or Attentive or Postscript or Amped or whatever. The idea is the same. You want to look at site visitors. So just how many people actually landed on the site. Of those people, how many people were shown the pop-up? You can see here, that'll help you calculate your percentage of visitors shown the pop-up. So in this case, 78% of people were targeted with the Amped IO pop-up. And you got to remember, people are not going to get the pop-up. So in this case, people not in that 78%, they're not going to get the pop-up if they're already subscribed, if they didn't stay long enough on the site to have it trigger, or if something in your targeting settings excluded them. So if you're just targeting people from, North America, people outside North America are not going to get the pop-up, obviously. So you just want to look at your targeting settings. If this is super low, you want to look at these 3 and understand, who are people, like why aren't more people getting targeted? All right, and then opt-in and conversion rates. Really, email opt-in rate and SMS opt-in rate. That's going to compare number of email signups versus how many people viewed the pop-up. And Attentive, this is going to be the conversion rate, CVR, right here. There's going to be one for email and one for SMS. Of course, the SMS is going to be a lot lower since we're doing a 2-step pop-up where they enter in their email and then they get another screen where they enter in their SMS information. Generally, that's performed the best across all our different pop-ups. So as an example, I'll use Amped.io. They have awesome analytics. What you can see here, site visitors, and then that's like 1,600 right here, 3,500 here. And then visitors shown any campaign. So how many people actually saw the pop-up, and then you can kind of get that percentage if you'd like. And then emails captured will be a percentage of the people shown any campaign. And then you can also look at, how many phone numbers were submitted versus the submit rate. Biggest metric that I like to look at here is just how many signups is this producing per day. You could have 2 different pop-ups where one has a lower conversion rate, but it's shown to way more people. So in the end, it converts more people per day. And this was definitely the case in these pop-ups in Attentive here. For example, one of our pop-ups, this 50% page scroll, it had the highest conversion rate. So when people did see it, a lot of times they did enter in their information, but it wasn't shown to that many people. So in the end, this only yielded, 8 subscribes per day, but our 6-second delay pop-up yielded 33 per day. So in the end, this 6-second delay was shown to a lot more people, but it had a lower conversion rate, but it's still a winner because in the end, you care about how many people are added to the list. All right, overall, e-commerce metrics, very, very important to understand these. All right, so as I said, very important to understand what you're getting into when you're doing email marketing. You could have the best emails ever. You could have amazing campaigns. Everything is just super dialed in. You have pretty, very pretty, very beautiful emails. Flows are on point. You have them all built out. They're looking great. But if the metrics on the back end are poor, so if you have a poor AOV, if you don't have really product market fit, you have a lot of orders getting returned, your LTV is already really low, people aren't coming back, email marketing is always going to be an uphill battle. It's just not going to work. And that just tells you that there's something about your product, something about the shipping, something about the site, something outside of email marketing that just isn't working. And frankly, people don't want your products. On the other hand, you could have terrible emails for a great brand. Nike could send out an email and it could be the worst one ever, and people are still gonna buy. Email marketing is always gonna perform. It's gonna perform great for a really great brand, so you don't have to absolutely dial in everything. Ideally, you have a great brand with great email marketing. So we're gonna dive into a couple metrics here. All right, so average order value. This is gonna be the average amount of money spent every time an order is placed on the site. Very important. It's really going to dictate how you do your email marketing, which we'll get to in a second. Percentage of orders returned. This really tells you about the customer satisfaction and the quality of the products. Also, things like apparel brands, they're going to have naturally higher orders returned just because of the nature of the product. Customer acquisition cost, more of an ads-based thing, but it still is relevant in email marketing because great email marketing can absolutely help reduce your customer acquisition costs. If you're essentially having emails being retargeted, towards those people who, if someone comes in on an ad and they get hit with a bunch of emails and the emails really help convert them, that's going to help that brand reduce customer acquisition cost. Customer lifetime value, that's a lot more where emails come in. The fact that there's going to be so many customer abandonment emails and post-purchase emails and things like that really take people from a cold lead to first-time customer to multi-time purchaser and VIP. That really kind of ascends them up that ladder. On autopilot, that's especially where your flows and consistent newsletters and things like that, that's where that all comes into play. Online store conversion rate, that's going to be huge just because your emails, the one goal of the email is to send people to the online store. So if that's a bottleneck, it's going to be a bottleneck showing up in your email marketing too. And then return customer rate, as always, if you have more returning customers, that means they're going to be purchasing more from emails. That means they're just going to perform better. So how do these metrics impact email marketing specifically? Low AOV stores means that it's most likely that customers are going to be impulse buying, and your email marketing can focus on more promos, flash sales, limited time offers, and really going for those quick conversions. High AOV is going to be, you're going to market towards customers who need a lot more nurture. We're working with a very high AOV brand that sells massage chairs. Average order value is in the thousands of dollars. So it's a longer sales process. You're not going to get just orders and orders and orders on every single email. You're going to see bigger revenue spikes and dips where one email might make 12K, the other might just make a few grand. And it's just going to be a lot more jagged because people are making big purchases. Percentage of orders returned. Too high means that there might be an issue with the product or product market fit. So you want your email marketing to really address these issues. Talk about what's in the product, give some sizing guides, talk about customer reviews, and can also really lend itself to a great post-purchase sequence. That's an awesome way to do it. And then some industries like apparel and fashion, since people are trying on the products and a lot of times the product just won't fit, there's going to be naturally a higher number of returns. So definitely in your email marketing, include tips for choosing the right size, styling advice, return exchange policies, things like that, to really do your part as someone who's managing the email marketing in reducing this as much as possible. Customer lifetime value. This is huge. This is really what email marketing, this is the biggest thing that email marketing can influence. Emails can promote loyalty programs, deals for VIPs and returning customers. Overall, the flows are a great way to maximize your customer lifetime value, especially in that post-purchase sequence or sequences. And you can look at your LTV and look at these VIP customers that have a high high lifetime value and target them specifically with upsells, cross sells, more nurture campaigns, things like that. Online store conversion rate, basically you just don't want it to be a bottleneck because the whole goal of the email is to send people to the store. So you want to look and make sure that is your email marketing revenue being negatively affected because of your online store's conversion rate. So you need to fix that. If it looks like a scammy website, or if it doesn't load fast, or if things are taking too long, there's not a good sequence in the cart or checkout, that's going to be an issue for your email marketing. And then returning customer rate, replenishable products like skincare, supplements, food, etc., are naturally just going to do a lot better with email marketing because you're just going to have more people purchasing from the emails. They're going to get that replenishment reminder flow. They're just going to order more from the emails anyways, versus something like a furniture brand or a high-end jewelry brand where people are just not replenishing their products. And that's going to be more of an uphill battle for email marketing. Not that you can't have great email marketing and great email marketing metrics. It's just going to be more of an uphill battle. All right, that was the end. If you're running a direct-to-consumer e-commerce brand doing 6 or 7 figures per month, and you want to add 50 to 200K to your monthly revenue in the next 90 days, or we go ahead and give you a refund, 2 options here. You can go ahead and visit zhs-ecom.com, or you can send an email to zach@zhs-ecom for more information. Hope you got a ton of value out of this video and appreciate you watching.